hearted good morning. Good morning. Good morning. That's more like it. Now, guys, thank you for the introduction. I hardly recognise who you were speaking about, but it did remind me of moderating, because the two of you are doing an exceptional job. I was asked to moderate a leadership conference in Barcelona a few years ago. I remember first thing in the morning, it's Barcelona, a fabulous city, one of my favourite cities. And before opening up the conference, I thought I'd get myself into the zone. So I stepped outside, soaking in the fabulous air of Barcelona, trying to think with my limited Spanish, how am I going to open up this conference? And whilst I'm getting into the zone and thinking this through, a brand new Rolls Royce pulls up, stops right in front of me. The chauffeur in a grey suit, grey cap, steps out the front, opens the back door, and out steps the most gorgeous, middle-aged Iberian woman. And absolutely everything was in the right place. Please. The hair was superb, sophisticated jewellery, haute couture, and the most expensive fur coat I've ever seen. The chauffeur stepped behind her, took the fur coat from over her shoulders, placed it over her arm, stepped back into the car and drove off. I'm still musing on how I'm going to open up this conference. And I'm wearing my usual working uniform, a dark suit, a white shirt, standing outside the hotel, and she stepped up to me in perfect English. She said, "Excuse me, do you know where the leadership conference is?" I said, "Sure, it's downstairs in the ballroom." She said, "Thank you very much." Placed the fur coat over my arm and walked downstairs. I was speechless. I'm standing there with a fur coat over my arm when the tannoy comes on and says, "Please welcome your host for today, René Carayol." I ran downstairs, jumped onto the stage. "Buenos dias, welcome to Barcelona." Everyone's pointing at the fur coat. I said, let me share with you the story of this fur coat. And I start to share the story. And by the way, the owner of this fur coat is sitting here in the auditorium. I'm sure she'd like to step up and collect her fur coat. Nobody moves. So I get the house lights on and we're following it, and eventually it's the longest walk in the world. She steps up on stage, I give her her fur coat, and I say to her, sometimes, just sometimes, our mistakes are our biggest learning opportunity. Wrong assumptions, biggest learning opportunity. This is not business as usual. This was business unusual. Now it's quite interesting, I've been back to Barcelona 4 or 5 times, and each time me and her and her husband, we have dinner, and what's the first thing we talk about? The fur coat. She'll never forget it, I'll never forget it, I hope you'll never forget it. So I'm going to talk to you today. I've got just under an hour with you. I'm going to try and convince you of 3 things. The first one, and this is important for Norway, your heritage will not be your destiny. Where you've come from and where you've been will not determine your future. You will. Number 2, also for Norway, because I had an interesting time at the airport yesterday. Manage a little less and lead a little more. I didn't experience leadership at the Oslo airport yesterday. I experienced management. Management. Very good management. The queues were orderly. 2 hours later. You know what we say? We always say that your reception is your only chance for making a great first impression. Oslo airport is a reception for Norway. It's very hard to get a second opportunity. We'll return to that. The third thing I'm going to try and convince you of, and it's probably the most important one, culture is more powerful than strategy. And it's really important. In an economic downturn, everybody's trying to come up with a new strategy. Trying to think their way to success. It just doesn't work. The only sustainable point of difference for any organization, any sports team, any nation is culture. And when I say culture, I mean the way we get things done around here. Anyone can copy your strategy. No one can copy your culture. It's a mixture of so many things that are peculiar to you. And far too many organizations, too many businesses don't even understand the levers of culture. They still see it as something that's soft and fluffy. No. And the only time I'm going to mention it today, I'm a Chelsea fan. And if you ever needed to prove that culture is more powerful than strategy, we took on the best two teams in Europe and beat them. When Jose Mourinho was our leader at Chelsea, he gave us the mantra: great players don't win trophies, great teams win trophies. And with that, let's commence. So a few years ago, I was asked to moderate a TV series for BBC World called Business 2025. We took 6 chief executives and we asked them, think forward to 2025. What will your business look like? Hello and welcome to Business 2025. I'm René Carayol. In this programme we'll be exploring the future and what our lives might be like in the year 2025. From space travel to fashion and from communications to medicine, we'll be searching for clues.
If you think how far the mobile phone has come in the last 10 years, we'll see a similar revolution in satellite navigation. We've got GPS at the moment. Within 10 years we'll have a Galileo system which will complement GPS, so we'll have 2 systems up there, a European one and a US one.
By 2025 you're going to have a massive amount of data easily available to you anytime, day or night, to a handheld device.
So if you think about the year 2025, it's actually not that far away. The devices that we carry around with us will have the intelligence to know our personal preferences, know our social circle, and it will be an extension of our persona.
One thing we can be certain of is by 2025, we're not going to be able to rely on this sort of stuff to earn a crust. What we're going to have to do is to develop new technology, new ideas. We're going to have to make sure they're unique to us and that the products that we can sell and sell outside the UK.
Global warming is such a huge issue for our society. I think in the next 25 years we'll see more car brands coming out, bringing stylish, zero-emission vehicles to our city streets.
We have just completed this wonderful building here at Wembley, and I think in 2025 we will have probably done about another 10 or 12 of those buildings. They will be more expensive, more spectacular, they'll be bigger, and more importantly, from an architectural point of view, they'll be more satisfying.
Now what's interesting, that was 3 years ago. Every single one of them got it wrong. And in a way, they got it wrong positively. Because every single one of those chief executives, their businesses, exceeded where they thought they'd be in 2025 within 2 years. The Motorola one was the most interesting. You see those old phones and everything she said, we do that and more now. The point is, business is so unpredictable. We're moving faster and faster and faster. Innovation is everywhere. And only fools try and predict it. Three weeks ago, I interviewed Robert Zoellick, outgoing president of the World Bank. Now, here's a bank that in 2006, before he joined, was nearly irrelevant. And everyone knows the World Bank is about supporting the developing world, the IMF is about supporting the developed world. And in the good times, the World Bank was nearly irrelevant. Its job is to give out loans. The culture had become due diligence, process, compliance, balanced scorecard, strings attached, high benchmark, so much so that no failed state could meet their requirements. These are failed states. How the hell are they going to meet those requirements? This was stupidity beyond belief. It wasn't strategy, it was culture. The strategy was clear. Give loans to failing nations. The culture, test, compliance, governance, due diligence. In 2007, when Zoellick joined, they were giving out $24 billion worth of loans. 2010, that moved to $76 billion. Why? He'd changed the culture. It's about trust. It's about giving loans. It's about making a difference. It's about being a force for good. Put the management bits aside and try and lead. So culture is more powerful than strategy. The world has changed. And smart people need to change with that changing world. If you're not prepared to change, you'll be left behind. Population of 7 billion in 2012. Unemployment amongst the youth is unbelievable. I should have put Greece there. Nearly 50% of the youth are unemployed. And if we look, young people are 3 times more likely to be unemployed than adults. This is not going away for now. We need 600 million new jobs in the next decade. This is scary stuff, but real. I'm a professor at Cass Business School in London. We pride ourselves on being the business school of the City of London. We never saw the recession, the global recession coming. Remember, this was the first really global, joined-up, interdependent, digital recession. The first time we had a non-inflation-led recession. Every previous recession tends to start in America and then move itself eastwards, hitting the UK, hitting France, and a domino effect around the world. This one wasn't like that. As banks were failing in London and on Wall Street, we watched the same pictures on our TV in Sydney, in Beijing, in Oslo, in Rome, in San Francisco. Recessions aren't acts of God, they're man-made. The disappearance of confidence. And panic set in everywhere, globally, simultaneously, concurrently. We've never seen anything like it before. The first ever digital recession. And the worst case scenario came everywhere. And you know what happens when confidence disappears? I'm lucky enough doing 80, 100 talks around the world every year. And each time, the top team need to share with me where they are. In the good times, 2004, 2005, 2006, as I walked through the boardrooms of Asia Pac, North America, Europe, Africa, the word I heard everywhere was transformation, which in retrospect was a euphemism for growth. By 2007, 2008, the word had changed. It was restructure. And restructure is a euphemism for cuts. Now, these aren't forced on us. It's about confidence. It's about optimism. I put it to you, it's about leadership. We will get the recovery we deserve. Every business will, every region will, every nation will. And if we look at Europe, where is our leadership? Just where is our leadership? And people ask me that perennial question, are leaders born or are leaders made? I put it to you, neither. In my world, leaders are found. And in a developed world, we only find leaders in times of crisis. When things are going well, we don't want to be led. Leave me alone. My wallet's fat, the economy's good, business is great. It's in times of crisis we've found our greatest leaders. Think Gandhi, think Churchill, think Martin Luther King, think Nelson Mandela. Out of crisis comes our great leadership. Leaders are found. The question I have is how much worse has it got to get before the leaders show up? So organizations get out of shape in the good times. In the good times, we go into different regions, we launch new products, we go into different territories, we make really expensive hires. But hey, don't worry. Budgets are fat, the money's coming in. It's not going to hurt us, is it? Recessions force us to get back in shape. And recessions are so tough on weak businesses. I could rattle off a number of banks and big global businesses that have gone under since the recession. In the good times, everyone's a great swimmer. Everyone's a great sailor when the sea's calm. It's when the sea's rough we find out who's really a great sailor. The recessions are really kind to strong businesses. They get stronger and stronger because usually they've taken the painful medicine early. They've restructured early. They've sorted out the bad products. They've moved out of the poor regions. They've rationalized the expensive but failing hires. The real trick is, as we come out of recession, head towards recovery, remember the lessons learned during the recession. Treat every day as though we're still in recession. That's not to say to be negative, pessimistic, because you've got to be optimistic and positive and lead and innovate. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Remember what we've learned. So culture is more powerful than strategy. And in a downturn, we see this all the time. Those organizations, those businesses with the fabulous cultures are succeeding, and I'm going to try and convince you of that now. Probably the most important slide I'll put up today. Management is not leadership. And what we see in Europe is a preponderance of management. Management is important, but it's a commodity now. And when I say management, I mean compliance, plans, project plans, the balanced scorecard, the critical success factors, the KPIs, everything that ensures we don't make mistakes. Everything that prevents the business from failing. We can teach it, we can train it, we can measure it. For years and years and years, it's been how we're promoted. The better the manager we are, the better we practice management, the more we progress in the organization. But it's a negative experience. And it's commodity. You can learn it, touch it, everyone does management now. You've still got to do it, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we shouldn't do management. But it's no longer enough on its own. I call it the hardware. Essential but commoditized. I call it the IQ. It's all about thinking. Let's talk leadership, which I call the EQ. Not intelligence quotient, the emotional quotient, the emotional intelligence. If management is what we have to do, what makes leadership special, it's how it makes us feel about it whilst we're doing it. Of course we've got to do it. Tends to be repetitive, tends to be audit, tends to be negative. I call leadership the software. Vision, people, teams, culture. This is what separates the winners from the losers. Everyone's got to do the management, but those who can bring in the leadership as well are in a very special place. In Europe, we are still worshipping at the altar of management. It's leaving us behind. Management creates cultures of not wanting to lose. Leadership creates cultures of wanting to win. We're not going to get out of this current recession by not wanting to lose. This is really important. Leadership is not management. It's how you energize your people towards your vision. Keyword, energize. The role of the leader is to create the excitement. No matter how mundane the role, no matter how tough the duty. Leaders are there to create excitement. This is vital. Leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible. This is why we're focusing on it now. Doing the things that other people said could not be done. Chelsea. Sorry about that. Sorry, couldn't resist it. Now here's an interesting one. We get those great leaders. We push them into organizations, we put them into businesses, we put them into nations, and they go native or get eaten by the natives. The most dangerous piece. Cultures can be so powerful, they can drag in a single leader, and they can't change the organization, can't change the nation, can't change the team. Because the way they've done things for so many years is too tough to change. So nowadays, when I say leadership, I mean the leadership team. I think it's nearly impossible for one person to do it on their own. And the smart leaders, for management, there's only one way of doing it. One size fits everyone. For leadership, one size fits no one. Everyone in this auditorium can be a leader if they choose to be. It's not like management, get your qualifications, serve your time, get your experience. This is different. Leadership's an attitude. If you choose to be a leader, nobody can take it away from you. And everyone in this room will build their leadership code around their individual strengths. It's not identical. Every one of you will do it differently. And that's okay. It's not about rank, it's not about status, it's not about job title. It's about attitude. And the minute we decide to liberate ourselves and become a leader, the world changes for us. This is your moment. This is your moment. So I've got a theory. I think I've got a theory for the way forward. And I call it the academy business. Every business I've ever seen or worked in has two drivers, performance and values. And I put it to you, in the recent good times, especially the financial services industry, but not exclusively, we forgot about values and focused on performance. We drove performance through our key performance indicators, our balanced scorecard, but most of all, through the financial bonus. Everything was about the financial incentive. So much so we forgot about values. I'd like to take us back to a time of values. I spent 10 years working for Marks Spencer. And for 30 years, it was the most admired organisation in the UK. But when I look back, I didn't realise it was all about management. We had one brand, St. Michael. The knickers, the tomatoes, the lingerie, the jackets had one brand, St. Michael. And it worked. We had a formula, it worked. But when I look back, we had 17 hierarchies of management from the chief executive to the frontline operator. Average length of service was 22 years. Staff turnover was less than 1%. We boasted about it. We boasted about it. But the question we should have asked ourselves, where are the new ideas coming from? Where are the new ideas coming from? The market's changed, M&S couldn't change with it. After 10 years at Marks Spencer's, the telephone rang. It was Pepsi. They were looking for a board director for the UK. I couldn't understand why they came to me. I wasn't the smartest, I wasn't the most experienced, I didn't go to the best university, I didn't have the best qualifications. But they came to me. I'd never been in a boardroom. My first day at Pepsi. I'm in a boardroom for the first time. This was April 1992. BG. Before Google. And before Google is important. I'm in the boardroom, and in those sad old days, there were 7 directors on the board, all male, in those sad old days. Our chief executive, Larry Cates, was an American. I'd never worked for the Americans before. And I'm standing in the boardroom, not really knowing how this works, what to do, and Larry Cates walked in, chief executive. I can remember it now like it was yesterday. My first experience of a leader, despite having spent 10 years at Marks & Spencer. Larry came in, April 1992, BG, before Google. Gentlemen, please meet our new board director, René Carayol. Let me tell you a little bit about René. He had no notes. He had no Google. René's parents came to the UK in 1960. How did he know that? He went to Leopold Road Infant School. He went to Sussex Primary School. He went to this university. He studied this degree. He had 10 jobs in 9 years at Marks & Spencer. No notes, no Google. He stood there and went through every single role I performed. Guess how that made me feel? This wasn't management. This wasn't an email prepared by Central Comms. This was Larry Cates, my leader. He could have only been about 5 minutes, but it's 5 minutes that got me on the bus. This was leadership. If Larry said, now, René, can you just jump through that window for me? I would have just jumped. This was leadership. This was leadership. So let me take you back 100 years. Let's go back to the start of the 1900s. 3 British companies changed the game forever. This was the time towards the end of the Industrial Revolution. There was huge unemployment. And Britain was a 2-tiered society. They have lots and they have nots. And those who had to go out to work rarely had 3 square meals a day to eat. Some of them never ate at all during the day. 3 businesses changed the game. Marks & Spencer, Cadbury, the Cooperative Society, by simply offering their workforce 3 square meals a day. Values-led leadership. And what happened? Instantaneously, they attracted and retained the top talent in their served areas. Secondly, they became number 1 in their served areas. Values-led leadership. Let's move fast forward. After the Second World War, Europe was recovering. But many of our nations were bankrupt. And a whole plethora of organisations turned to values-led leadership, care and compassion. They cared about their workforce. They didn't just feed them, they did lots of other things. And each one of these, public sector, private sector, became market leaders. Just through values, just through caring for their people, engaging their people, listening to them. Let's go fast forward again to the 90s. The advent of the Americans. They came to Europe, and how? They brought big brands, huge marketing campaigns, aggressive, performance-driven cultures. They measured everything. They didn't come here to lose, they came to win. And win they did. They brought the performance-driven cultures. And I know, because it was about this time I was on the board at Pepsi. Challenger brand. We had to wake up every single day facing the might of Coca-Cola, the most recognized brand on the planet. 64% of their balance sheet was brand. We couldn't beat them in hand-to-hand combat. We had to be faster, take more risks, win at everything, so we measured everything. Me and my team could get, every 90 days, I could get 60% of my annual salary as a financial bonus if we delivered against agreed objectives. We were the most focused team you could find. We never missed a trick. Performance was up there. What about values? So, I think far too many organizations are still focused on management. And their organizations feel a bit like this. Long and strong on technical skills. It's all about being experienced for the job, otherwise we don't want you. A focus on safety and security of the organization. Training, not development, training was what we call 80-20. 80% performed in a classroom and only 20% on the job. Because management is everything. Everyone's into cost reduction and everyone's into service provision. Now you've got to do that, but that alone is not enough. That was the atmosphere I worked in at Marks Spencer's, and I put it to you. Many of you in the auditorium work in that sort of atmosphere today. There are some new contemporary academy businesses, and I'll share a few in a moment, who do that plus everyone's a leader. Be you the till operator, be you the cashier. You are a leader in the organization. Everyone's commercial. Everyone knows what the targets are for the organization. They're not obsessed with them, they're encouraged by them. Everyone knows what they are. There are powerful relationships internally and externally. And the 80-20 management training moves to career development, the Google model, 70-20-10. What Google have said is 70% on the job with a coach. And importantly, that coach is your boss. Because we're not just coaching you the technical side of your job, they're coaching you the culture, which is what makes us so different, so special. 20% is on the job with a mentor. Someone in the organization, but not someone from your direct team, not your boss. Because all research tells us 90% of resignations aren't from the organization, they're from your boss. So therefore, there's a mentor in the organization who might just be able to repair that relationship or find you another place in the organization if the organization wants to keep you. Only 10% is formally in a classroom. Culture is more powerful than strategy. Everyone collaborates internally and externally. Everyone communicates all the time. There are next to no secrets. We share everything. The more we know, the more we're engaged, the more we deliver. Here are some organizations, I put it to you, are still engrossed in management. Even Facebook. It's management. It's not leadership. It's strategy. It's not culture. And these organizations, I put it to you, need to change and change quickly because they're failing. Here are some, I think, who are getting it right. They're doing things differently. They engage their people. They tell stories. They connect, they touch, they care. There's values. They still drive performance, don't get me wrong, they're still successful. But they do so much more. These are my academy businesses. And if I look at those academy businesses, it feels a little bit like this. They're fast, they're pacey. Mistakes aren't about blame, they're about learning. They're bold, they're courageous, they have very open cultures. They'll recruit their people from the most unorthodox of places. They're risk-embracing. They spontaneously celebrate success. They identify opportunities to celebrate success. They're alert. They have a calling. They have a purpose. Their people feel as though this is more than just a business. We are a force for good. We're making a telling difference. They're informal. They're empowering. It's not delegation. Here's a bunch of tasks. Go and perform them. No, here are some decisions to go and make. They're very flat structures, and they think customer, not product. I hope I'm ringing some bells with your organisation. If not, it might be this management model, where it feels a little different, especially in a downturn. There's a bit of a can't-do attitude. Everyone worships around product. They don't travel so well, they're blinkered. They're complacent. When we look at their senior teams in the boardroom, it's still a little male, pale, and stale. Cultures are very closed. We only fish from the same pools all the time, the same 4 universities. We're ponderous and slow. We're a little prescriptive. This is how you will get it done. We're hierarchical. We're very status conscious and we're obsessed with skills, not talent. So, I've saved a little bit of time later for some questions, and I still like incentives. So I'm going to ask the first question now, and I've got a little prize. Signed copy of a little book I've written some time ago, the soundtrack to listen to it, and that Business 2025 series. So here's the first question. Shout out loud the answer. First prize for the answer. There are only 2 organisations on the planet that receive more than 1 million unsolicited job applications every year. Who are they? That's so good you can have that. We wish. So let me ask again. There are only 2 organisations on the planet who receive more than 1 million unsolicited job applications every year. Who are they? Who said Google around here? Can you catch? Oh, well done. Give her a round of applause, please. And someone said Apple. Wrong, 3 times wrong. It will never be Apple. The toughest culture I have ever seen, and we'll come back to that. Tough beyond belief. Tough. Successful, I wonder how sustainable. Google, again, who's the second one? No? Say that again? No? Amazon, no? Come on, it's not a new age company. It's 134 years old. Who's 134 years old? Nike. Come on. Nike. Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble. Now, you know, the ridiculous thing is I sort of get Procter and Gamble. 134 years old, 110,000 employees, been doing great things with brands, continues for 134 years. The one I don't get is Google. Only 20 years old? Sorry, only 10 years, 11 years old. 20,000 employees. How does that come about? How does that come about? Well, let me tell you how. Let me tell you how. You cannot hide from your culture. I don't think those 1 million unsolicited applications looking to join a search engine or a household products company. They're looking to join a company whose values match theirs. And if you're young at heart, fast-moving, technology illiterate, risk-embracing, don't care too much for process, want to win, innovation is at the heart of everything you do, good team player, you're probably not going to Procter & Gamble. If you're a little risk-averse, cautious, like process, like procedure, like a bit of hierarchy, status-conscious, you're probably not going to Google. You're probably going to Procter & Gamble. But here's the question. Who's applying to your organisation? And what does that say about your culture? How many unsolicited job applications do you get? And who are they from? And when you look at them, you're looking in the mirror. They're joining because you reflect them. What's the talent pool you're looking for? And what are you actually getting? And then what are you going to do about it? You cannot hide from your culture. Google. Stories build culture. Crazily enough. You tell the stories about your organization, eventually they build the culture. Google my 70-20-10. They're you've probably gathered, my favorite organization of the moment. I wrote a pretty skeptical article about them. They announced when they come into the UK that our people only work 4 days out of every 5. On the 5th day, we down tools. And our people can think the unthinkable. 80% of our corporate innovation comes from that one day when they down their tools. Great. They didn't have any workers in the UK. How could they do? So I wrote this article in the business press, and they invited me over to Google's offices, San Francisco, onto the campus. And it was quite fascinating, because they invited me to their innovation awards. And once a year, they do these innovation awards. It's a bit like the Oscars. The 2 founders, 6 videos, sent in by colleagues who voted for them with the innovation of the year. Fabulously, handheld camera, but fabulous innovation. And it's beamed to every campus, and I'm sitting in the audience, and they go through these 6 videos, the 2 founders up front, little informal discussion amongst themselves, say, we've got the winner, please play it again. They play it again, they say, and they're having a bit of a discussion, they say, we've decided to award the winners $10 million. It got my attention, and I'm sure it got everyone's attention in Google. And what did that do? Puts innovation at the heart of everything they do. Stories change culture. That story went round Google in seconds. No one remembers a departmental strategy, believe me. No matter how many charts, graphs, colours you put on there, no one remembers it. Everyone remembers David and Goliath. What are your stories? What are your stories? And if our stories about catching our people doing things right, exemplifying the behaviour we're looking for. Marks Spencer was great at telling stories. I'll never forget the one story that went around. A man went into one of our stores, Ipswich store in East Anglia, and he came in with 2 suits. Our differentiator in the marketplace used to be, if you don't like it, bring it back, and we'll give you your money back. And it just worked. It's a very expensive thing to do. We had 45% gross margin, food and clothing, we could afford it. This guy walks in. Excuse me, I bought 2 suits. One's my wedding suit, one's my funeral suit. The flies broken on both of them. Could you change them, please? So the girl at the desk gets the code, types it in. She says, oh, you're going to have to come to the customer service desk with me. They go to the customer service desk. They say, oh, can I have the... No, she gets the code, types in. Oh, I better call the store manager. Store manager comes down, looks at the 2 results, makes an instant decision. Can you go and get 2 of our top-of-the-range suits, £399 each, and give them to this man? And the girl said, but he paid, and this is old money, 10 shillings for each of these suits. He said, excuse me, so when did you buy these suits? He said, that one I bought in 1944, and that one I bought in 1945. That's my wedding suit, that's my funeral suit. I've worn this one once, I've worn this one twice. Can you change them, please? He said, of course, sir. They were over 45 years old. They brought the new suits out at a cost of £399 each. Within half an hour, the local newspapers were in the store. Within 2 hours, it was on the TV. In the morning, it was on the front page of every newspaper. But far more important than that, you can't buy that publicity. 220,000 employees at Marks and Spencer's received a message. The customer is king. The customer is king. I was lucky enough to chair a conference, and the keynote speaker was Richard Branson. And it was fantastic. He was on his island in the Caribbean, Necker Island. I was on stage in the Barbican in London. And I was told by the organiser, we've got him for an hour. We've booked the technology for 1 hour. It's very expensive. He's going to talk for 20 minutes, you're going to interview him for 20 minutes, and you're going to then take questions from the audience for 20 minutes. Please don't let him overrun. Thank you very much. Off they went. On comes Branson, and I'm a fan. Now, I've listened to this guy. He starts speaking, And they'd given me a copy of his speech. They said, so you can time it, see where he gets to. But he's got to finish at 20 minutes. I had a look at the speech. I couldn't read it. It was phonetically written. And after a while, even I caught on, he's dyslexic. He has a reading learning issue. He doesn't see the words the way we see them. So I'd written them in a way that he could say them. And he was now starting off and clambering really slowly through this speech, but I could see that, and he was reading an auto cue, and it was really tough. And the audience, after a while, the audience sensed he was struggling through this. He took about half an hour. I didn't interrupt him. Because in many respects, it was what we wanted to see, a level of determination you've never seen before. The audience was spellbound. When he finished, he was visibly sweating. And as our moderators know, when someone's anxious, ask them a question where they don't have to think. So Richard, you built a fantastic business and a fantastic brand. You attract and retain some of the best talent around. How do you do that? He went to answer and he stammered. I didn't know Branson was dyslexic. I didn't know he suffered from a stammer. He stammered. So I moved swiftly on to us. He said, no, René, ask me the question again, please. I asked the question again. You built a fantastic business, fantastic brand. He stammered again. 6 times I asked the question, 6 times he stammered. The 7th time he answered it perfectly. No one in the auditorium remembers anything about the content of his speech. We'll never forget Richard Branson. And the message we took away, certainly I took away, winners never quit, quitters never win. He talked about Virgin's values. I call this culture. And this stays with me forever. And I'll pick out a couple of them that really struck me. Be bold is obvious. Speed is of the essence. Find a cause or a purpose. But the one that really hit me was, in a world where we're all obsessing about measurement, some of the good stuff can't be measured. We at Virgin, we focus on a few different things: integrity, authenticity, trust, respect. They're harder to measure, but they're really important to us. Could you write your values? Could you make them clear and coherent so your people understand them? Not those plaques, those words that we jumble around, but something that's peculiar to you, that means something to your people. All my team are spread across the UK. We have a virtual team. Some of them in Ireland, some of them in Scotland, some of them in the Midlands, some of them in London. And it works great. The internet is fantastic. Disable distance. We made a big decision that everyone was going to use Dell PCs and Dell laptops. Great. Until they go wrong. Many years ago, when Michael Dell was in charge, it felt that everything was going well. Michael Dell leaves, and they took all the telephone numbers away when things go wrong. You can only contact them by email. We call it Dell Hell. And the systems went down. I sent an email in. 3 days later, I get a lackadaisical response. 5 days, we can't trade as a business. Fixed it. It was very sour. The engineer comes around. He fixed 2 of the PCs in my place. I asked him to do the third one. He said, that wasn't on my call sheet. It's not part of my KPIs. You know that conversation you love to have. Not part of my KPIs. I could have killed him. Anyway, he leaves. This year, last year, end of last year, it happened again. Hadn't realised that Michael Dell had come back. Typed in the problem. They said, within 20 minutes, I got a response. The engineer will be there by 2 p.m. today. I took the day off work. Didn't quite believe it. Last time, the van went up and down the road. I stood in the middle of the road waiting for the van. When the van came down, I stood in the middle of the road, stopped him, dragged him out the van and got him into the house. As we got into the house, I locked the door. He's not leaving. I showed him the 3 PCs. He was different. He said, no problem, sir. Fix the 3 PCs. As he's about to leave, I said, I'm really sorry, I forgot my daughter's laptop. You fix that? He said, of course, sir. I said, where's the speech about the KPIs? Pardon? I said, well, I told him what happened. He said, no, things have changed. Michael Dell is back. And we've got a vision. I said, pardon? We've got a vision. Oh, well, why don't you share with me what that vision is? It's very simple. It's like jumping in a swimming pool, holding your breath for as long as you can, then coming back up for air. The vision? He said, yeah. Michael's telling us to do everything we possibly can for our customers. Everything they want and more. Whilst we're focused on doing everything for our customers, some of our competition is really struggling. It's like going underwater and holding your breath for as long as you can, and when we come back up for air, some of our competition may no longer be there. And we can win their business if we're that customer focused. Wow. Vision. Vision. What's your vision? And do your people, your frontline operators, do they get it? Do they feel it? Does it mean something? We all know about jobs. And I've led what we call learning journeys, leading some groups into Apple to see how they operate. It's a tough old place. We can't argue with the results. I think they dared to do it their way. They dared to be different. A fixation on profits, an obsession with customers, no silos. How sustainable, I don't know. Not a culture that I would massively be supportive of. Here's a culture I'm supportive of. David Smith was people director at Asda. He talks about their values. Asda was a broken supermarket in the UK that's now the second largest. 10-year turnaround. An obsession with the style of management and leadership. They hire for attitude, not for skills. They hire for attitude, they train for skills. Far too many of us hire for skills, then hope to train for attitude. If you don't have the right attitude, you can't train it. They communicate. They remove their underperformers, not because they're underperformers per se, but to liberate the talent underneath. They create the buzz, fun, and performance. Outside Asda's head office, there's a sign that says, when work is fun, things get done. I love it. They're long on recognition, they're long on listening. So I'm coming towards a close. I want to ask you an impertinent but important question. And it's the question. Why should anyone be led by you? What do you bring to the leadership party? Not management, leadership. What's your leadership code? If I was to ask the people that report to you to tell me in few words what your leadership style is like, what would they say, and do you indeed know? Tough, uncompromising, visionary, engaging, prescriptive, hierarchical, status conscious, helpful, generous, compassionate. Why should anyone be led by you? So I'm going to try and fly through 10 top tips very quickly. And I think these are new age leadership tips. The 4 most powerful words for any leader in any organization. What do you think? What do you think? You ask your people, what do you think? You've just engaged them. You listen to what they say, you've engaged them even more. You act on what they say, the Google way, you've activated them. Relationships. The smartest organizations aren't at war internally. There's no heavy competition, there's no rivalry. They're all moving in the same direction. Think Chelsea. Sorry. A clear vision. Think Dell. Make it personal, make it relevant. That's what the great leaders do. They're not big cliches that apply to anyone. They apply specifically to you. Collaboration works. Great players don't win trophies, great teams win trophies. The world has changed and moved really quickly. Do your management teams have access to under 25s who understand this new fast-moving world and this new language? You need them. They don't need to be on the team, but you need to have access to them. Here's the management. If you're in complete control, you just ain't going fast enough. Share the plan and charge that hill. Charge that hill. You know, it's interesting. I was doing some work with First Direct, small 24/7 internet-based bank in the UK, wholly owned subsidiary of HSBC. HSBC was saying to them, oh, we've done all this research, a balanced scorecard, and we've seen, what's that thing called? IVR, that instant voice recognition. You know, you get on the phone, choose option 1, choose option 2. Well, HSBC had done some research, spread it around the organisation, done some tests, and they've seen it's efficient, it's cheaper, it's cut down the amount of people they need in the call centre. First Direct said, that's not the way we do business. We've made all our customers a promise. If something goes wrong, you want to call us anywhere 24/7, you'll get a human voice within 3 rings. HSBC were hammering First Direct to change. Chris Pilling, former chief executive of First Direct, came from Asda as marketing director. Very interesting. Marketing director of a supermarket becoming chief executive of a bank. Real customer centricity. He fought hard to push HSBC away. They wouldn't have it. I was chairing the conference and he told this story, which I'll never forget, and I don't want you to forget either. He said on that tragic day of 9/11, a First Direct customer was in the second tower. When the second plane hit the tower, some machinery fell on top of her. She was losing consciousness, but she had her mobile phone. She was conscious enough to make one phone call. Who did she call? First Direct, a totally landlocked UK bank. She's in New York. Why? She knew she'd get a human voice within 3 rings. When the operator answered, she said, "Can you please contact my husband and my children?" The operator said, "Of course. One of my colleagues is contacting your husband now. We've got the number. Another one of my colleagues is contacting your children. We've got the numbers here." She recognized that the customer was drowsy, feeling faint, losing consciousness. She kept her talking for 45 minutes because a further colleague had contacted the emergency services and rescued her. Now, what a story for First Direct. Every employee knows what First Direct stands for. What's your story? Inspire and challenge your people. The whole world's a stage. Tell your story. Coming towards a close. A test whether you're moving in the right direction. We're in a period where lots of people hate our banks now, especially over in the UK. And because most banks have become neutral organisations. We want to be served by personalities. We want to know who you are and touch you. So, quick test for you. Which one's the personality, which one's the organisation? British Airways, organisation. Virgin Atlantic, personality. HSBC, First Direct, I've given you a clue here. First Direct is a personality, HSBC, the organisation. Would you prefer to bank with Apple or Citibank? Would you prefer to bank with UBS or Google? Ask yourself the question. Your organisation, your business, is it personality or is it organisation? So, many would say that the budget airlines are the toughest industry that you could ever get to. And the only thing that separates them is price. But there's one that stands out. It's been profitable for 39 years, it has no customer service department. For the right reason, it has no customer service department, unlike Ryanair. Its staff are empowered to resolve any customer complaint. If the customer's not satisfied, they fire them. I love this. But have a look at their culture. This is Southwest Airlines, the daddy of budget airlines.
Good evening, folks. Welcome aboard Southwest Airlines Flight 372, service to Oklahoma City. Those of you that have flown us before know that we do things a little bit differently here on Southwest. Some of us tell jokes, some of us sing, some of us just stand there and look beautiful. I, unfortunately, can do none of those. So here's the one thing that I do know how to do. We're going to shake things up a little bit. I need a little audience participation. Otherwise, this is not going to go over well at all. So here's what I need, especially you guys in the front because you know what's coming. All right, I need a beat, all right? All I need you to do is stomp and clap, and I'm going to do the rest because I've had 5 flights today, and I just cannot do the regular boring announcement again. Otherwise, I'm going to put myself to sleep. So, you guys with me? All right. So give me a stomp, clap, clap. Come on, stomp, clap, clap. Stay on beat there. There you go. Keep that going. This is Flight 372 on SWA. The flight attendants on board serving you today. Teresa in the middle, David in the back. My name is David and I'm here to tell you that shortly after takeoff, first things first, there's soft drinks and coffee to quench your thirst. But if you want another kind of drink, then just holler. Alcoholic beverages will be $4. If a Monster energy drink is your plan, that'll be $3 and you get the whole can. We won't take your cash, you gotta pay with plastic. If you have a coupon, then that's fantastic. We know you're ready to get to new places. Open up the bench, put away your suitcases. Carry on items, go under the seat in front of you, so none of you have things by your feet. If you have a seat on a row with the exit, we're gonna talk to you, so you might as well expect it. You gotta help evacuate in case we need you. If you don't want to, then we're gonna reseat you. Before we leave, our advice is put away your electronic devices. Fasten your seatbelt, then put your trays up. Press the button to make the seat back raise up. Sit back, relax, have a good time. It's almost time to go, so I'm done with the rhyme. Thank you for the fact that I wasn't ignored. This is Southwest Airlines. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much for my beat. I appreciate that. You will not get that on United Airlines, I guarantee you.
So can you imagine your chief executive doing that rap for the management conference? Look, I'm closing now. You've been a fantastic audience, and I've tried to convince you of three things. Number one, your heritage will not be your destiny. Number two, to manage a little less and lead a little more. And number three, and by far the most important, culture is so much more powerful than strategy. Thank you very much for your time.